So if at this point we should have on this video conference as well as in the hearing room all representatives of applications for adjustment this evening. The circumstances are such that we have a 5-member Board of Adjustment in its normal scope of things. Of the 5 members, you must have a positive vote of 4 with which to pass your adjustment. You have to have 4 out of the 5. At this point, we only have 4 members present, which is a quorum under our rules for the meeting. However, we understand that in terms of applicant, because it has to be a unanimous vote. Under our rules, you're entitled to do one of 2 things. One is proceed and hope you have a unanimous vote from the board, in which case the adjustment would be passed. And if anyone votes against you, the adjustment will not be passed. The other opportunity is to continue your matter, giving you the opportunity of having a full 5-member review of your application. We'll take each one of the applicants and see if you wish to proceed this evening. There's no penalty and there's no prejudice if you decide to continue your matter to such time when you can have a full Board of Adjustment review your application. So with that said, we should go to 2359, which is the applicant for 832 Providence Avenue. Are you on that?
No, don't we want to call the meeting to order?
Well, do we want to?
Well, I mean, we've always let the applicants make the decision whether they want to be continued or any time up until when we close and go into executive session.
Okay, then let's do it whatever you're comfortable with. You're the chairman.
I mean, if there's anyone who is here right now who definitely would like to wait for a 5-member board, they could approach and make that known now, and then they could leave.
Yeah, why don't we do that? We'll start with just representative for 832 Providence. Do you know at this time if you'd want to postpone your hearing to next month or go through it tonight?
I'd like to proceed.
Tonight?
Yes.
Okay. 548 Oakwood, you're here tonight. Would you like to proceed tonight?
We'll proceed.
Okay. 713 East Swan Avenue. Would you like to go through your hearing tonight or postpone until next month?
Tonight.
Okay. And 536 Edgar Court. Would you like to go through your hearing tonight?
Yes.
Okay. And the 2 individuals here at City Hall both said they'd like to proceed tonight. Debbie, do you want to call the meeting?
Okay. All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting, the October 14th regular meeting of the City of Webster Groves Board of Adjustment to order. Tom, could you please take the roll call?
Yes, I can. John first.
We couldn't hear you, John.
John first.
Present. Present.
Debbie Salzberg,
Present.
and almost before.
Thank you. As the city attorney has indicated, we do have an order of the proceedings tonight. First, the staff will present testimony regarding the facts of the request. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to present their request to the board and address questions. We will also ask for anyone in the audience or who has joined the meeting via electronically who are in favor of the application to speak, and anyone who is opposed to the application to speak. At that time, the The board may ask the petitioner or the staff questions during this time. Then the board will close the public session and open for board discussion and decision. The proceedings are recorded, so please speak clearly and one at a time. We will vote on your application tonight for a decision unless, as I stated, prior to closing the public session, you ask to be held to a later time when we have a full board. The approval will take 4 positive votes, and please try not to be redundant or repetitive in your comments. Tom, could you please read the powers relative to the requested variances tonight?
I can. There are section 5.3.307. Jurisdiction. The board shall have the following powers. Variations. When by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property as of September 20th, 1956, or by reason of exceptional topographical conditions or extraordinary or exceptional situations or condition of a specific piece of property, which condition is not generally the strict application of the area regulations in this zoning code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to our exceptional and undue hardship on the owner of such property. The board is hereby empowered to authorize upon relating to such property a variation from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties or hardships.
Thank you. Tom, would you please read the first docket into the record?
Docket 2359, petition submitted by Christopher Sharon White for an application for variance from section 53.078J of the zoning code of Webster Road. The applicant is requesting a variance of 3.5 feet from the minimum required 6-foot east side yard setback in order to construct a 1-story addition above an existing accessory structure detached garage located 2.5 feet from the east side lot line. The property is located at 823 Providence Avenue within the A4 7,500 square foot residential district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman, if you please, we would have present the testimony of Danny Ginduzzo, if he could be sworn.
I have my right hand raised.
Do you hereby solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, we have presented to each member of the Board of Adjustment a packet of information from staff, and we would move the introduction into evidence, what has been marked as the exhibits in your packet, and move their admission as part of the record. In addition to the packet of printed information, we would present the testimony of live witnesses, and to that event, we would ask you to please state your name.
My name is Danny Ginduzzo.
And you're employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And what capacity?
As planner.
What are your duties in that position, please?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
Through your work with the city, are you familiar with the property at 832 Providence Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Is that within the city limits?
Yes, it is.
In what zoning district is this property located?
It is in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
What is the applicant's request?
The applicant is requesting a variance of 3.5 feet from the minimum required 6-foot east side yard setback in order to construct a 1.5 story addition above an existing accessory structure detached garage that is located 2.5 feet from the east side lot line.
And would you advise the board as to the municipal code sections that apply to this particular request?
The variance is directly requested from section 53.078 subsection J in the development standards for accessory structures. It states that any detached accessory building with a gross floor area exceeding 672 square feet or the building height as defined in the zoning code that would exceed 12 feet shall comply with the minimum side yard setback requirements of the district that would apply to the primary structure. And then that is a reference to the side yard setbacks that would apply to the main house, which are found in section 53073C, which states that there shall be a side yard on each side of the building having a width of not less than 6 feet.
Can you describe the existing conditions on this property, please?
Yes, according to St. Louis County, the house at 832 Providence was built in 1908, and the existing detached garage was built in 1978. Here are photos provided by the applicant of the existing one-story detached garage in their yard. The copy of the survey has been highlighted to show that the existing detached garage is an existing non-conforming structure because it was built and is located only 2.5 feet from the east side property line. The minimum required setback for structure, a one-story detached garage of this size, is currently 5 feet. So it's considered a non-conforming structure, and any alterations or expansions of the structure are required to come before the Board of Adjustment.
And would you explain the actual variances being requested by these applicants?
Yes, so the applicant is proposing to build an addition on top of the existing one-story garage. And then they would also be doing some structural alterations to that garage. Here are the applicant's preliminary architectural elevation renderings, adding the half-story of enclosed space and a rear covered porch onto the back half of the upper level of the garage. A structure of this size would be required to meet a 6-foot side yard setback in this zoning district. Here are copies of the preliminary floor plans from the applicant showing the additional upper level space and rear covered patio. Shown on this slide in green, the allowable buildable area for a 1.5 story detached garage of this size on this lot, with the setback at 6 feet from the side property line. As you can see, the existing detached garage does not meet that setback. They would be requesting a 2.5 foot side yard setback in order to add to and alter this existing garage. And that's all I've got.
You have no what's in there, and that's correct.
That is it.
Nothing further on behalf of the city. Okay.
Danny, I had a question. So nothing about this garage requires a variance except the setback, the size, all that's okay, right?
Correct. They've designed it so that the only item needing a variance is related to the setback. It's meeting all the area requirements, floor area requirements.
And is this variance worded in such a way that as long as the primary portion of the existing garage remains the same, if it would be granted, it's the assumption that they're not going to end up having to tear this garage down and build a new one? Is that correct?
That is the yes, that is the assumption of the variance description. That is, it is being added to the existing garage and not a completely new structure.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions for Danny while he's here?
Well, just a comment, then I'm assuming that the garage was built by a previous owner.
Yes.
And at the time when that setback didn't apply.
I don't know if it was the correct setback when it was built. I don't know that.
All we know is it's there now.
Yeah.
And may I ask, okay, the right now the setback would be 6 feet, correct?
Well, technically, the current status of the garage a garage of that size would only need a 5-foot setback.
5 foot.
But because they want to add the height to it and the additional square footage, that requires a greater
understand.
6-foot setback.
I see. And so the setback on the addition as planned, on just the addition, not the garage, but the new addition is a little over 6 feet.
Yeah, so they have drawn it to meet the new portion to meet the 6-foot side yard
Yes.
setback. That really does not impact the actual legality, though. It is still altering a existing non-conforming structure. So even if even though that the new portion is going to meet the 6-foot setback, it still requires a variance. It would require the same variance if they built it just in line with the existing footprint of the structure.
I understand. Thank you.
Gotcha.
And if they were just going to remodel the garage, even the footprint, that would only, they'd only have to have a 5-yard setback, and they still have a variance.
True.
If that was the case.
True. They can do limited repairs to the existing garage without meeting any variances, but if they wanted to do any kind of serious structural alterations, yeah, it would require a 5-foot setback.
Lesser variance.
Correct.
If there are no other questions for Danny, who is here in favor of docket 2359?
I saw the architect on here, so I'll bring her over first, and then maybe the homeowner
Okay.
will speak. So I'll bring over Tracy. Tracy, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening.
Okay. Tracy, before you present, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
I did just want to open it up. I don't know if Chris Wright is online as well. He's the homeowner of this.
Yeah, I do see him. So I can bring him first. Whoever, do you want to go first and then?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a little bit of background for this project, and then you kind of, Debbie touched on constructability a little bit, which is also a driver for this project. But the goal of this project is to have the homeowners offer some space for their teenage sons so they are at home instead of off somewhere else. So we're trying to create some space for them, and we ended up looking at their basement, finishing out the basement, but ran into a bunch of issues down there with head height and just getting that space to even work as an open living space. And that proved to be a monumental effort to get that to work. So we're looking at different options, and we studied multiple options at the garage as well. And Danny's helped us a lot to get us to where we are today. So we're proposing to give them some space up above their existing garage. And in regards to construction and constructability, if we were to revise the building so that we're within that setback, it would really mean rebuilding the whole thing, because if we shift that wall over, we're not going to be able to fit the homeowners' cars within the existing space that's left over. So we're kind of, we are seeing a hardship here where we really like to just maintain the structure where it is and just build on top of that. That's going to be the easiest way to just using conventional construction, be able to get the space that they need without just completely tearing down and rebuilding. So for budget reasons too, which I know that it's not a consideration that you guys might take into account, but yeah, that would be a whole new garage. So I did want to turn it over to Chris if you've got any other comments.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, or a clarification for you, Tracy. I guess my question was driven by the thought that if you're using the existing garage and building a second story addition, that's one thing. But if during construction someone decides, oh, we were wrong, these footings are rotted, or there's no, or this foundation needs to be repoured, and they tear it down, that was my question. You're fairly confident that that's not going to happen, that the integrity of the existing garage will support this second story, and the existing garage will remain at the same location. It won't get torn down and replaced. That was my question, my concern.
Yep, that's correct. We did have a structural engineer come out and look at everything. There is one area that's cracked that will need some repair, but it's not a full, we're not ripping out all the footings or the floor or anything like that.
Right.
That'll
I
be-
wasn't suggesting that you would
Yeah.
cut off part of the garage, with this construction. That was not my intent. I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you
no.
ready to bring the property, the homeowner in now?
Yep.
Okay. This is Mr. Shannon. I mean, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry.
Let me bring him over.
Okay.
Mr. Wright, Mr. or Mrs. Wright, I'm not sure. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Before you start testimony, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate you taking up our variance request. What Ms. Collins has indicated is absolutely accurate. We moved into this home in August of 2007. The garage was where it was when we moved in. We quite frankly had never thought about doing anything to the garage until lately we have a freshman in high school, we have a senior in high school, and we really wanted to find a space that could be like a movie room for them, for us in it, because we don't really have a space like that in our existing home. And so, as Ms. Collins indicated, we tried to look at a basement and kind of digging down and doing that. And there were a whole host of issues that made that unfeasible. And so we then went to Plan B. And the concern that my wife and I have candidly is with the variance issue is we really don't, the garage itself is in great shape. It's been a great structure for us. It's an oversized garage. We really don't want to tear it down and rebuild because it is in good shape. And if we do have to tear it down and rebuild and kind of move everything over 3 feet, as you can see on the plan here that's up on the PowerPoint, we are in a typical narrow, long Webster yard. Moving 3 feet or moving however feet it is over and having to re-pour the foundation, that's going to basically make our backyard. I don't know how usable it would be for us or any future homeowners, and so that we're really trying to just kind of to if we can minimize having to, if we don't have to, tear down and rebuild and build on the existing structure.
And it appears we have a letter in our packet from your neighbors at 830 Providence. That is the affected side. They're the ones that are the closest to your garage, correct?
I'm not sure if that's correct or not. I know we went to both of our neighbors, both on the west and the east. The east is the affected side. That's Shelley and Brad Newdecker. And
okay, so this evidently is the other one. He didn't give his name, but I don't think his last name's Newdecker based on his signature.
Yeah, we talked to them and had something from them. I don't know if it hasn't been submitted to you all, but they have indicated that they have no issue with the variance that we requested because it's the where it is currently. They have no problem with it. They just want us to make sure we keep that area in between the wall and their yard, which is separated by a fence, clear and clean and not overgrown.
And refresh my memory, do you have to go to the Architectural Review Board for this addition, or have you done that yet?
I believe we do. I believe Ms. Collins can answer that best, but I believe we do. And I believe the next step would be, if we are granted the variance, to submit everything to the Architectural Review Board.
So basically it'll match sort more or less the garage as it you know, siding wise and style. Okay. Are there any board members who have any questions for Mr. Wright?
I've got one comment. I'm looking at your statement of unnecessary hardship. And it looks or appears that you did consider or look at if you didn't get the variance, that you would have to construct a new interior wall, decrease the size of the door opening, and put a second floor on height. Correct what I'm saying?
And I apologize, I really can't hear you. There is a really, really bad echo in the chamber, I think, and it's not translating through at least through my speakers. And so I couldn't really hear the question.
Is your mic on, Tom? Is your microphone on?
I may
I
have,
think so.
The little green light?
it's on.
It's on. Yeah.
Okay, because yeah, I can't hear Tom very well either.
Nor can I.
I heard pieces of it.
It
Did-
would be heard.
Do you want to come over here and use this one, maybe this one?
Yeah, Mr. Ginduzzo's mic, I can hear him much better.
Yeah.
Yes, and the city attorneys as well.
I'm at a new microphone. My comment or question really was, it appears that you folks did consider or look into, if we didn't get the variance, reconstructing the garage, which would decrease the door area. And so you have this listed in a hardship. Am I interpreting that correct? Or?
Yes, sir. If we were to just move, for example, if we were to just move the east wall and east foundation over to meet the setback, then we would essentially be and kept the west side the way it is or where it is and not redid the entire foundation and move it over a full 3 feet. We wouldn't really have enough room to have a full-size garage door.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought I was interpreting. I just wanted to clarify it. So thank
Yes,
you. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Wright or his architect?
No.
Are we ready to move into to close public comment and move into executive session?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else in the audience who is in favor of docket 2359?
I see none on the Zoom.
Is there anyone on the Zoom or present who is in opposition to docket 2359?
I see none.
Thank you very much. Now, shall we move into the board close for public comment, and we'll move into board discussion. Does anyone want to make a comment to start out with?
Should we give them another chance to decide to postpone?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Wright, are you still wanting to go ahead this evening and have the board make a decision on your request?
Yes, I'm fine with proceeding forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Would any board member like to start the discussion out?
Well, it seems like the placement of the garage as an existing condition represents an exceptional situation.
I would tend to agree. And I think that they've certainly, worked with city staff to not ask for a garage size variance or anything else. And I think that, but for the location of the existing garage, this addition would not need a variance. And this is obviously not anything that these homeowners had anything to do with.
Right.
But yeah, practical difficulty if the applicant had garage or increase
I can't hear.
Yeah, we really can't hear. That mic really doesn't work very well.
No,
Or
I just can't hear.
Do you want to just sit over here during the?
Or you could move around, sit at the mayor's place.
Why not?
You know her mic works.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I only have one comment. I mean, having two teenage sons that need space is not a hardship. We all have that. Okay, that is in and of itself is simply not a hardship. That said, I think that they did not build this garage. And it seems to me that the design has done everything that they can to minimize the impact, to bring it within code as best as they can. And I think it's actually a very reasonable design.
Yeah, I think as a planning proposition, I agree. There's been some diligence here.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Randy, do you?
Beg pardon?
I'm going to move that we vote on docket item 2357 in a favorable.
2359, 2359, Tom.
I'm sorry, 2359. I'm moving around here, so.
Okay. And you're recommending approval?
I recommend approval of docket item 2359.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Does anyone want to have any additional comments before we call for a vote?
I do not.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Tom, would you please poll the commission?
I would. John Burse,
aye. Approve.
Andy Sprague,
Aye. Approval.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Yes.
and
Approval.
myself, Tom Walsh, yes.
Your variance has passed. Or you may see city staff during regular business hours about your next steps or options. Tom, would you please read docket 2360 into the record?
Yes, I will. Docket number 2360, a petition submitted by Marcy and Aaron Teitelbaum for an application for variance from section 53.078 N of the zoning code of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 0.45 feet from the minimum required 5-foot south rear yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage located 4.55 feet from the south rear lot line. The property is located at 548 Oakwood Avenue within the A4 7,500 square foot residential district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman, if it please. First of all, we would move the admission of what has been marked as the exhibits in your packet have been previously distributed to all members of the Board of Adjustment, and we would move to have those documents part of the record. In addition to the written documents that have been presented to the board, we will present the testimony of City Staff Member Danny Ginduzzo. He has previously been sworn this evening and is currently under oath. That being said, please state your name.
My name is Danny Ginduzzo. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And you are employed by the City of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
In what capacity?
As a planner.
What are your duties in that position?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
Through your work with the city, are you familiar with the property at 548 Oakwood Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Is that within the city limits?
Yes, it is.
What is the zoning that's applicable to this property?
It is A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
And what is the applicant's request?
The applicant is requesting a variance of 0.45 feet from the minimum required 5-foot south rear yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage that would be located 4.55 feet from the south rear lot line.
And are you familiar with the municipal code sections that apply to this request?
Yes, it is section 53.078N, which states that accessory buildings may be built in the rear yard, but such accessory buildings will not occupy more than 30% of the rear yard and shall not be nearer than 5 feet from each side or rear lot line.
Would you describe for the board the existing conditions on this property?
Yes, according to St. Louis County, the house and the existing detached garage were built in 1928. Here we have a copy of the boundary and improvement survey of the property. The existing detached garage is highlighted in yellow on the slide. It is considered a legal non-conforming structure because it was built 4.55 feet from the rear lot line. And there is a minimum required 5-foot setback from the rear lot line for a structure of this size. Here we have the applicant's photos of the existing garage in their rear yard. Yeah, those are the existing conditions.
And we do explain the variance that's actually requested by this application.
Yes, the applicant is proposing to demo the existing garage and build a new detached garage in the same location. The proposed location of the detached garage is marked in red on the survey. For a garage of this size, again, it would require a 5-foot rear yard setback. They want to meet the existing footprint of the existing structure, which is located 4.55 feet from the rear yard property line. So they are asking for that variance of slightly less than half.
And is there anything else in your packet you wish to present to the board?
That is it.
With that being said, and the admission of the documents that are in your packet, the city would have nothing further, Madam Chairman.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ginduzzo before we bring the property owner on? Who is here in favor of docket 2360?
The property owner is here and walking to the podium. Hopefully that microphone works.
Good evening. If you would raise your right hand and state your first name and. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So we are looking to tear down this garage and including the pad and reconstruct the garage on the exact same footprint. The garage is in disrepair. We've done everything that we can to bolster the garage, to get it to the point where it is manageable and it's at that spot where it can't. And for us to even move it over that half a foot, we would be having to remove a fence and also a mature tree and all of its roots that you can see in the picture that we presented. That tree would have to be removed if we moved it over and kept the path the same size.
This is not a real large 2-car garage, is it? Is it in fact a 2-car garage?
It is. It's a small one, but it is a 2-car garage.
Okay. And so you're not proposing to increase the size of the garage, certainly width-wise, correct?
No, we want to add a half story, so it's a 1.5 story.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
We're planning on adding a story to the top for storage, so it'll be a 1.5 story.
Oh, okay. And you've worked with the city staff so that the 1.5 story, which I assume at this point in time is primarily for storage, would not need any additional variances?
That's correct.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any Any questions for the property owner?
I do. It appears the garage is actually leaning. Is it the the structure?
Yes. We've actually taken, when we bought the house about 9 years ago, it was fully renovated inside. Nobody's ever touched the garage. So we've done everything we can to support it. But it is tough.
Yeah, that tree is beautiful, and the fence, I know, is absolutely amazing. Anyway, no other questions.
Could I ask just briefly, do they have to re-pour the foundation, or is that going to be okay? Can you build on what you've got there already?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Do you have to re-pour the foundation, or is it going to be satisfactory?
No, we're re-pouring the foundation.
Okay.
We want to make sure that it meets the new requirements for depth, and it just needs to be done.
Yeah, I had one of these. I think it's called a pole barn.
Tom, do you have any questions for the property owner?
He's walking back to the microphone. No, I have none.
Okay, thank you.
I might just, well, never mind. I'll bring it up.
Mr. Titlebaum, before we go into executive session, are you okay with going ahead with the vote on your variance this evening?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of docket 2360?
I've not seen any hands raised on the Zoom.
Is there anyone in the audience or on the Zoom who would like to speak in opposition to docket 2360? Hearing none and seeing none, the board will move into executive session. Is there would any board member like to start the discussion?
I think it seems like a reasonable, extremely reasonable proposition worthy of a variance. You know, use the existing footprint and preserve that tree. The age of that structure. Go ahead, Randy.
No, I'm sorry. I'm very much inclined to agree. I did go by and look, and that is an absolutely glorious tree. Having lost two that size this year in my yard, I'd sure like to protect this one. And if they're building on the existing footprint and not going to damage that tree, that's kind of why I was asking about the foundation. It sounds like that they're cognizant of what they can and cannot do, and can keep this tree safe. I think it's a very reasonable request to rebuild on the existing footprint.
Yeah, I would add that it is a corner lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you said, well, can you put a garage anyplace else, that would create a hardship. Put it anyplace else on the lot, I think.
And I think if hopefully they can do the proposed construction without damage to the existing tree, because I think it's a reasonable variance as well. Would anyone like to make a motion for docket 2360? I'm sorry, if there's no further board discussion, would anyone like to make a motion for docket 2360?
I would move approval of docket 2360.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Randy, could you please poll the commission? I'm sorry, Tom, could you please poll the commission?
Yeah, hey.
Excuse me.
More than happy to, but
John Burris,
Approve.
Randy Sprague,
approve.
Debbie Salberg,
Approve.
Tom Willis, approve.
Your application has passed tonight. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step. Randy, I'm sorry. God, I'm having a brain freeze.
Oh,
Tom, would you please read docket 2361 into the record?
Okay, I will. Docket 2361, petition submitted by Marsad Samajic, JEMZ Investments and Properties LLC for an application for variance from section 53.073C.2 of the zoning code of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting one variance of 0.2 feet from the minimum required 5-foot west side yard setback in order to construct a second-story addition located 4.8 feet from the west side of lot line. The applicant is requesting a second variance of 2.1 feet from the minimum required 5-foot east side yard setback in order to construct a second-story addition located 2.9 feet from the east side lot line. The property is located at 713 East Swan Avenue within the A4 7,500-foot residential district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman. First of all, we will the introduction of the evidence that has been previously presented to the board and distributed to the board, marked as the city's exhibits in the packet that have been given to the Board of Adjustment. In addition to the written documents that have been presented, the city would present the testimony of Danny Ginduzzo, who has previously been sworn this evening. Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Danny Ginduzzo.
And you are employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
In what capacity?
As planner,
What are your duties in that position, please?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
Through your work with the city, are you familiar with the property at 713 East Swan Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Is that within the city limits of Webster Groves?
Yes, it is.
And what is the zoning district for that property?
It is zoned A4, 7,500 square foot residence district.
Would you please describe for the board the applicant's request?
Yes, the applicant is requesting two variances from the side yard setback regulation. First variance is for 0.2 feet from the minimum required 5-foot west side yard setback in order to construct a second-story addition that will be located 4.8 feet from the west side lot line. The applicant's second variance is for 2.1 feet from the minimum required 5-foot east side yard setback in order to construct the second-story addition that will be located 2.9 feet from the east side lot line.
And what code sections apply to these requests?
That is section 53.073C in the side yard setback regulation. It states that residential structures existing as of September 20th, 1956, which are closer to the side property line than 6 feet, may be enlarged, provided that in addition, they are closer to the side property line than 10% of the lot width of the front yard setback and is not reduced to less than 5 feet. So since this is a narrow lot and the existing home was built closer to the side yard setbacks than is allowed today, the alternative side yard setback seeks to apply to the property that you would have a minimum of 5-foot side yard setback here.
And would you describe the existing conditions on this property for the board, please?
Yes, so here we have a copy of the boundary and improvement survey of the property. According to the county, the house was built in 1920. It is a pretty narrow lot. It's only 32 feet wide. The existing structure that was built in 1920 is considered a legal non-conforming structure because it is so close to the side property line on both sides. Because of the alternate setback, 10% of the lot width would only be, well, they're required to have at least a minimum of 5-foot setback for the addition according to the zoning regulations. But so the existing house is located 4.8 feet from the west side lot line and 2.9 feet from the east side lot line. And they would like to build an addition on top of the existing footprint.
And would you explain just the actual variance that's being requested?
Sure. So it is currently a small one-story house on this lot. The applicant would like to build a half-story above the existing structure. Here we have the applicant's preliminary architectural elevations, adding the half-story on top of the existing footprint of the structure. But in doing so, it would be encroaching into the required setback. It would be 9 feet from the side and 6 feet from the side. And the code regulations say that any additions are still required to be 5 feet from the side property line. Here we have an image of the applicant's floor plans showing they'd be looking to maintain the existing footprint setbacks from the side property line and identify the setbacks. And again, here's the applicant's proposed elevations of their half-story addition on top of the structure. And that's all I have.
Okay, and there's nothing further in the packet that hasn't been discussed here tonight, is that correct?
Correct.
We have nothing further on the city, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions for Mr. Ginduzzo?
So so the addition, the second story addition would have the same footprint as the house has now. The same variant, the same distances from the neighbors. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Who's here? If not, who's here in favor of docket 2361?
I believe this is the applicant, Rasad.
Hello.
Hello. Could you, I'm sorry. Could you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please proceed with your request.
My name is Mersad Smaich. I'm owner of the Gems Investments, and this project obviously is to make this house look like a real house in a neighborhood. It's like it's a sore in an eye on the street. It's been abandoned for a while. And when I actually talked to Danny a couple of times, I wanted to propose a new construction house. So tear this one down completely and build a new one. And talking to him about it, he suggested that's probably not going to fly. So I came up with a different plan where we leave the footprints of the same house, not changing anything, just go, another floor and add a little bit more square footage. So it makes sense for me to go and make an addition and make this house like it's supposed to be in the neighborhood. And then Danny helped me a few times. We exchanged emails. He looked at it, he goes, yeah, this looks much better versus tearing this down and building a new house, because it is such a narrow lot. So it probably would not work.
Okay, that makes reasonable sense. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Any board members? Tom, you don't have questions?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Question.
Randy, John?
No,
All right.
I think I see it. Yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom who is anyone else who is in favor of docket 2361?
I don't see anyone.
And I assume that there is no one in opposition to 2361. Thank you very much. Before we proceed to closed session, are you okay with moving forward with only a 4-member board, us voting on your variance this evening?
If it's questioned to me, yes.
Okay, you're okay with that. All right, thank you. All right, let's move into executive session. Would a board member like to start the discussion?
I want to just reiterate, this is a 32-foot wide lot, which is exceptionally small by way of frontage, and we're building on, the proposal is to build on the existing footprint of the house, which unfortunately has both sides requiring a variance. So it certainly is something the applicant inherited. I'm glad to hear he did explore building a new structures and found this to be the most practical way to proceed for him.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I think there's a lot that is commendable about this. I mean, recycling this structure and giving it a new life, and particularly, providing a home at that kind of missing middle. It'll be exciting to see this get transformed from eyesore to, I think the applicant called it a sore eye, to something that could be loved and be a benefit to the neighborhood and to the block.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, Debbie.
I was just going to say a 32-foot lot. Yeah, I'm glad that there's someone who's willing to take the initiative to try to make this a more modern house, more appealing to a buyer in this day and age.
Yeah,
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, if 32-foot lot isn't a hardship, I don't know what is. And in all candor, if the alternative is to knock the thing down and put a pickleball court there, I don't know.
Right.
It seems to me that this is a viable alternative to try to save a house and make it into something that's valuable. It's a hardship to have that lot,
Right.
and they're trying to do something with it.
it's interesting though, like having lived in the city, there are lots that are 25 feet wide that are worth several $100,000,
Right.
And having lived on one, it's a whole different, typology, narrow lot house design.
Well,
anyway, we could go on all night.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we accept docket item 2362 variance.
61, 2361,
2361. 61. I'm sorry. 2361. I move approval for both variances. I think we can do this with one vote.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Billings, is it okay for us to vote on both of these variances with one vote?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. All in favor of docket 2361, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Same nay. Tom, could you please poll the commission?
I will. John Burse,
Approve.
Randy Sprague,
I approve.
Tom Walsh approves, and Debbie Solberg.
Approve. Okay, your application has passed. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step. Tom, would you please read docket 2362 into the record?
Docket 2362, a petition submitted by Michael and Amanda Lynch for an application for variance from section 53.073 C1 of the zoning code of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 3 feet from the minimum required 6-foot west side yard setback in order to construct a 2nd-story addition located 3 feet from the west side lot line. The property is located at 536 Edgar Court within the A4 7,500 square foot residential district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman. First, say we move the introduction of the evidence was previously marked as a packet and given to each of the board members for tonight's hearing under docket number 2362. In addition to the written materials that are provided to the board, the city would produce the live testimony of Danny Ginduzzo, who has previously been sworn this evening. With that being said, would you please state your name for the record, please?
My name is Danny Ginduzzo.
And you are employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes.
You're employed as a planner, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are your duties as a planner for Webster Groves?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
Do you work with the city? Are you familiar with the property at 536 Edgar Court?
I guess I am.
That's within the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what is the zoning district?
It's zone A4 7,500 square foot.
Between the values of the as to the applicant's request.
The applicant is requesting a variance of 3 feet from the minimum required 6-foot west side setback in order to construct a 2nd-story addition that will be located 3 feet from the west side lot line.
What municipal code or codes are affecting this particular request?
It is section 53.073 C1 of the side yard setback regulation. States that there shall be a side yard on each side of the building having a width of not less than 6 feet for residential structure.
And would you describe the existing conditions on this parcel?
Yes, so here's a copy of the boundary improvement survey, the existing conditions. According to St. Louis County, the house was built in 1947. Looking at my aerial, the non-conforming attached garage addition was built sometime in the 1970s. It was built 3 feet from the west lot line. Additionally, in the early 2000s, the Board of Adjustment granted a variance for a rear screen porch at the back of the property to also meet a 3-foot setback. Photo of the existing conditions of the home with the with the addition for the furniture garage that prominently front of the house. That existing structure would be expanded on vertically, some portions, but expanded vertically and here's a copy of an excerpt from the docket number 1797, Board of Adjustment in 2002, when the for the rear screen porch addition that was built at that time. Staff determined that the variance for the rear screen porch was restricted to just that particular project that cannot apply to an additional addition without getting additional determination from the Board of Adjustment.
Would you summarize the variance requested by the staff?
Yes, so the applicant is proposing to construct an addition and renovate the current home. You can see the preliminary architectural elevation for the top of the slide showing the existing area furniture attached garage where that addition will be impacting on the west side lot line. Here's an image of the west side elevation, altering that existing structure. They put together a diagram to sort of explain. The left corner you can see is the darker shades where they're being vertically the existing structure from a flat roof, and then in the green at the front end of the garage, but actually the reducing and removing a portion of the existing second level of that garage. Here we have copies of the applicant's proposed floor plans for the addition, secondary addition, identifying in green where the required 6-foot west side setback would apply, and in red that they are looking to maintain the existing setback. And sort of highlighting in red what impact to the structure that would have. Here again, just kind of demonstrating on the existing footprint of the home where the 6-foot setback would apply and where the existing garage was built 3 feet on the west side.
Okay, anything further in your packet to produce for the board?
That is it.
Okay. And with the admission of the documents that were previously provided to the board, the city would have nothing further at this time, Madam Chairman.
Danny, this is a pretty big addition that didn't meet the setback in the 70s. Was the city not issuing their own building permits back then? Were they contracting with the county, or do we have any idea how this happened?
Yeah, I think at that time the county was managing the building permits for the city. I couldn't find records of the building permit when it was built. I just found that it's using historic aerials to identify it was built sometime in the 70s, but I don't know exactly how it happened.
Because I noticed we have a letter in opposition from the affected neighbor in the packet. She's concerned about construction. Well, she's concerned about the whole thing, but she also makes the point that with construction, she's not sure they can build it without, without access to her property. I guess. Does anyone else have any questions for Danny?
Let me just clarify, this addition is going to go over the existing house, correct?
Correct.
It's not going to encroach any further into side yard easement.
Correct.
The encroachment is already there. My concern with what the contractor, I think I would be concerned possibly if I was a neighbor of having people traipse through my yard because of the narrowness of it, but that's in a way a separate issue.
It also appears that they're going to add significantly more fenestration to the addition area with this new construction. Is that your understanding too, Danny?
You mean the additional windows on that side?
Windows and stuff like that. It looks like they're going for a more mid-century modern look rather than boxy barn.
That will be something that the architectural review board will
Right.
review, as well as our building commissioner to verify fire separation and fire.
Oh, right, because they'll have to meet fire separation to the house next door. Does anyone have any else have any questions for Danny?
None here.
Who is here in favor of docket 2361?
The applicant is in the city hall chambers and welcome to the architect.
I'd like the applicant to state his name. Thank you. And do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please present your case.
Yeah, so, you're about 15 years. The last 3 years we have planted, holding out like perfect property in which to live in. Pretty much the rest of our lives are high school and junior high and here. On the property, it's on a dead-end street, one house away from the complete grove, like a forest with trails, so it's a perfect spot for us. And I love to take something that's not beautiful and try to make it beautiful. So this house, because it is this house on the block for sure. So we purchased the property last December. So what I'm to do, and I do understand the neighbor's concern, but I talked to her about it. Based on our first conversation, but I had subsequent ones with her. And we actually seemed thrilled by the action how it's taken. If you took the current side of that house and moved out to the footage, it will have from what is encroaching on current. So,
Excuse me, could I stop you for a second? I can barely understand you. Danny, is there a problem with the mic at the podium?
No, it may have been the mask, maybe speaking about the mask.
he's unmasking.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Is any better?
That's better.
That seems
yeah.
a little better, yes, thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that. So the west side of the property, as you can see in the picture there, is pretty unsightly. And what I'm proposing to do is to remove about 6 feet from the front of that top story back towards the back of the home, which will actually give a much better sideline on down the street, from the neighbor's point of view. The rear currently has the screened-in porch that was built in, what did you say, early 2000s, it was approved. I'm actually removing that and doing a new addition back there, but it will be within the 6-foot setback requirements. So I'm actually removing quite a bit of structure that the neighbor has an issue with. On the structure that's already there, I'm simply asking to go straight up on what's already there. And it's already a 2-story structure, it just does have some sloped walls inside, ceilings. So hopefully you can see that I don't feel like I'm altering anything too much other than trying to make this house the dream home for my wife and I. Street.
And if this variance is granted, you understand you will have to take this to the Architectural Review Board?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
So I hear you saying you're actually taking away part of the front. That is correct. So the part over the garage door is going to be inset 6 feet and become flush with the front of the house that's on the first floor to give it some dimension to the property. Instead of just box on top of box. Yes, sir. Yeah, and then the porch is going to be adjusted, and that's going to be within the. That's correct. The screened-in porch on the back will be removed, and any new structure shown on my plans meets the 6-foot requirement. So I actually will be giving the neighbor some extra space that she does not have now. The alternative, I read the letter the first time tonight, is to tear down the house. I can't have, I'm not going to do that. I would have to take that 2-car garage, turn it into a 1-car garage, for there with floating mechanisms is not the option in my opinion.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I have one more?
Sure.
You cannot see it from this picture, but there is a retaining wall that runs between the front yard and my house. So currently, they cannot, no contract, nobody can get back to it any form of equipment to begin with. So all access to the backyard, to that side of the house will happen on the left east side of the home. So it would be very minimum that her yard would be affected. Now, of course, I can guarantee that somebody's not going to have to set a ladder or climb up the side or something of that nature. But all construction equipment, everything would have to come from the east side of the home, which is opposite of the neighbor's shop.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I just have one question. I mean, this is a massive reconstruction and it's certainly challenging. Why don't you move the house over 3 feet?
The existing foundation is on the slab of the garage. If I moved it over 3 feet, I would estimate, talking to excavators, foundation and flatwork people, that would probably cost an extra probably $60,000 to $80,000 that would do that. In addition, there is behind the property, on the east side, there is a large beautiful elm tree. So I would end up not having access to the backyard at all. Like certainly can't get by on the west side where the property perhaps. If I moved it over 3 feet, I would not be able to get by on the east side. The other option, if I were to build new, I'd have to make the house narrower and go back further. And if you can see in, I don't know if you have an aerial shot, it's probably a 4 foot wide oak tree directly behind the property that would definitely be impacted or have to come down.
Okay.
Basically, my basic answer is that financially, it's just not feasible for me to do something.
Right, and that's fair answer. Yeah.
The door that is shown in this picture we're seeing, is this the man door to the garage? Or is this a door that would be used to that goes directly into the other parts of the house?
On the proposed elevation?
No, I'm looking at the existing. Well, it's also the proposed elevation, but
So on the existing, that on the side is a window. There is no entry into the garage or the garage.
Okay.
Door. On my proposed plan, I just add a door that enters into the garage so that we could get into that and then into the hole without having to open the garage door.
So it's not necessarily a door that's going to be used a lot if the variance is granted and the addition is constructed.
And the issue with my design,
Does anyone else have any other board members have any questions for the applicant?
No.
I'm here.
If not, is there anyone else in favor of docket number 2362?
I don't see anyone.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to docket 2362?
No way.
I'm sorry, you're not seeing anyone in opposition either?
There's no.
Before we go into closed session, I just want to make sure that the applicant's willing wants to go ahead with having the 4 members of the board vote on his his application for variance tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll go into closed session, into executive session. Does anyone want to make any opening comments?
I'll make a
Well, I
comment.
get,
I have a hard time
okay.
finding a hardship here. To be candid with you, I think it's an interesting architectural design, but what's the hardship exactly that allows them to do this? I'm not sure I find it.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like part of the theme of the evening. You know, in this case, the county permitted a non-conforming structure. Right?
Well,
Back in the 70s.
somehow a non-conforming structure was built. Well, I mean, it may in fact have been that the county approved it, but let's not, we're not throwing stones. We're not trying to blame anybody at this point in time. And certainly that's not anything that the current owner had anything to do with. I'm still confused as to a little bit, because some of these documents weren't they weren't labeled real well exactly. I guess he's cutting back the front end of the house above the garage. It's not going to be quite as tall, but the roof line will, but it's not like the rest of the roof is lower. So it's certainly going to be a massive structure, possibly with a little more attractive structure if it is approved, correct?
Attractive's in the eye of the beholder.
Well,
Well,
and that's not really like our purview.
no, that's not our
purview.
point. That's not our
somebody else
point, but
does that. Yeah.
I
Right.
do agree with you, Debbie, that the documentation of this project is really difficult to get one's arms around. And be sure that we're looking at what we should be looking at. It's a lot of interesting ideas, but boy, it takes time to really study it.
Yeah.
Tom, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I sort of agree with what John just said, but yeah, I'm having, that's why I asked the applicant about the change of the roof in the front. And I am envisioning that would change the looks of the structure, but you're still going to have a massive straight up side. The back may be altered too. I think that's a plus. The applicant is dealing with one of these, his property that's located in the easement. And that's the uniqueness of this. I think we all are sort of having trouble visioning what this would look like with the changes.
Right, and as Danny pointed out, even if the drawings are what the homeowner wants, they have not been approved by either the building commissioner for required fenestration or and fire separation or the architectural review board. And I know the variance comes first, not the architectural review board. That's not in question in my mind. It's just, you know,
I have real issues trying to understand what hardship we're overcoming here. And that's really what we're supposed to do.
that you are correct. You are correct, Randy.
I'm just not finding it.
Would someone like to, are we ready to make a motion? And I believe that Robert's Rules of Order indicate the motion should be in the affirmative, no matter how you intend to vote.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept docket item 2362's variance request for a variance of 3 feet from the minimum required 6 feet side yard setback.
Does anyone have any comments before we call for the vote?
Motion second, yeah, second.
Oh, right. Excuse me. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments before we call for the vote?
Well, is the applicant? No, he can't come in back. Okay.
No.
So summarizing, I'm probably repeating myself.
That's okay.
The side of the house is already in the, he needs his variance because the house is already set there and he had nothing to do with it. We've dealt with that before this evening. I think what we're all doing is groping with what this is going to look like in the end, because we don't have a very good vision of it. So I'm thinking my position here. The applicant cannot, he inherited a problem. He seems to be addressing the construction point, but again, that's not what we're voting on. So I think I would probably vote for it.
And as someone pointed out, it's not the Board of Adjustment's job to determine the attractiveness. That comes, that's an architectural review.
Well, Debbie, let's clarify that. The Architectural Review Board could come in here and say, wait, this is beautiful, or it's wonderful, or you need to make a change, or
Well, the board basically, they do sometimes make recommendations for changes, but basically the Architectural Review Board is supposed to approve or not approve a request.
Yeah.
And so while they could ask for additional, additional fenestrations, I don't think that they don't have as much power as people think they do.
Yeah, they're not going to make major changes to the side of the house, right? Yeah, that's my understanding.
Right, I believe you're correct.
I do think there's something compelling from a planning perspective. They're bringing, and I assume this because the drawing's not labeled, but that elevation that the garage is on, the side yard, and the question of the variance, the scale of it's coming down a little bit. Now it's a big gable on the side and the height of it. But, again, that's not really pertinent to this conversation. It's all about the side yard setback.
Yeah. I just think sometimes we have to remember what we're supposed to approve is a variance based upon some unusual circumstance or need, a tree that's there, a pre-existing structure that's falling apart. This is a whole new design. And I'm sorry, but I don't understand the hardship.
Well, it's an exceptional circumstance that the house is built too close to the lot line.
Okay.
I think I've said it 3 times.
That's fine. I mean, then come up with a different design. I'm just saying that the alternative view of this is that I don't understand the hardship. You create the hardship by creating the design. The design created the hardship. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. I don't think.
Well, except that like Tom said, the house is already only 3 feet from the side property line.
It's an existing.
And we did approve, very early variances both today and at other meetings where they're not increasing the reduction in the setback, but they're building along the same lines. This is very similar to that. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just saying that the hardship issue is that the house is where it is.
Okay, if you take the view that the hardship is that, gee, I got the thing and there's where the line is and I didn't draw the line and I didn't build the thing. So, okay, I accept that viewpoint. I can accept that.
We have a lot of those like that.
Oh, I know.
I'm looking at this picture of the house, and this is a very minor point, but the house next door, that lot goes up,
Mhm.
and the house doesn't appear real close. Real close is defined by, I guess, by any of us.
Well-
So the fact that his lot is lower, I think helps that situation, but again, that's not the hardship. Hardship is where the structure is built.
And if the case you make is that the hardship is that he's unfortunately got the thing built there. He didn't do it. And he's trying to improve thereupon. That's the hardship.
It makes an exceptional circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I take that point. I get it.
And what he's building new to this will be in compliance.
Yes.
Not that
Well-
like that owes any.
Once we
consideration.
say it's okay. Yeah.
No,
The rest of it's in compliance.
I agree with you, Tom.
Yeah, I do think we take into consideration what something's going to look like, but in the end, we're voting on an exceptional circumstance, a hardship.
Yeah.
It can be reasoned that he is doing something to that side to break it up some.
Sure.
So I guess those are my final thoughts on this item. Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay. I think we have a motion on the floor. Let's, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Tom, would you please poll the commission?
I will. John Burse,
Approve.
Randy Sprague,
Approve.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Approve.
and Tom Walsh approve.
Your application has been approved. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next steps. Is there any other business? Oh, I guess Douglas Hill feedback. Does anyone want to talk about Douglas Hill this evening? You should have gotten emails from both a general email from Marla and a more specific email from Danny, asking for any comments you have on the Douglas Hill project. I can't remember the date, but I think we have a little bit more time. The public hearing for the tax increment financing is Wednesday, the 27th of October. I believe that meeting starts at 6. Danny, is that correct?
I think that's correct, yes.
Excuse me?
I'd have to check, but I think that's.
Okay, but I mean, don't assume it starts at 7 is my point. You need to check the public hearing because I know that some of the other meetings started at 6. The public hearing for the TIF will, you can make comments, or you can make these comments to Danny or Mara. I don't know that's probably rezoning that we're talking about, correct? Danny?
I think it's either issue, the board
Okay.
members are invited to comment. And, specifically, I think, I kind of explained my position in the email, but I'm not sure. It's up to you guys to decide if you would like to make a collective, recommendations regarding the TIF or the zoning. I'm not sure if it necessarily fits the bill of this board and committee, but that's kind of up for you guys to decide. But everybody is, they want to specifically reach out to all, committee members and board members to get your feedback, whether individually or collectively.
Can I just ask a point of order? If we get into discussions like this, should we close the meeting? We have an official meeting that is actually a legal record. Shouldn't we close the meeting if you want to have discussions about other things like this?
No, this is part of the other business portion of the meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let me say that to me, it's very, I thought it was very interesting that they would ask this. This committee has nothing to do with rezoning, which is what this is about, and tips, which is what this is also about. And I'm not so certain that, what do you want to do? Does this committee going to come to some consensus and then we're going to sign off on it? Then we have to write a minority report if somebody doesn't agree. This doesn't make any sense. We've been presented none of the facts as a committee, none of the facts of the case. And what we would be voting on and discussing are our own personal beliefs. I don't think that's a committee decision.
Now, see, I looked at it as I honestly thought that this was city staff requesting input from people who are committed to the city, not necessarily as on a board from the whole board, but that if you have particular comments, that things that you approve of, that you think are great or you think are not so great, that they were trying to solicit additional public comment.
And that's fine. I have no issue with that. But
I never thought that this
address it
board
to a board, I think, is a mistake, and I don't think
would try to get together. And so I guess
I did not interpret that we had to vote on this as a commission. They just are looking for input.
I read it a different way.
They want to be sure everybody in the community has a chance for input. One of the way to do it is allow the board to make comments.
Oh, yeah.
I tend to agree with Randy that as a board, it's probably not appropriate for us to come up with a group statement. But I do want to encourage anyone to either to make comments to the city regarding your opinion on the Douglas Hill project and the just the whole thing. Is that reasonable?
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's incumbent upon us. They're asking for people who have some insights to write what they think, and that's great. And the more input we can give the city council, it's got a tough decision. The better decisions they make. I think that's where it belongs.
Yeah.
Randy, just watch what you say, or you'll be in the middle of a controversy.
So is anyone going to have a problem with the next meeting being on November 11th, which is a holiday for some, but not for Webster Grove city employees?
I do not.
When you're retired, no problems.
Well, no, you just have to plan it around your busy travel schedule and volunteer schedule, right? Right.
Are
Tom?
you good, John? On the 11th, are you good?
I'm checking it.
John, I don't think's retired, so.
No, I don't think John's retired.
I'm pretty far away from retire. Let me check my schedule though. I think that would work. But I'm an alternate member here. I just fill in and
you do a good job.
You do a very good job.
We appreciate you you filling in, and you do an excellent job. Thank you. Is there any other business we need to discuss tonight?
Only that I would say that I thought the discussion was very good tonight, and I changed my mind on some things, and I really enjoyed it very much. I thought it was very thoughtful, and I think it was these were very good decisions that were made.
I have one other item that I perhaps put on the agenda, but I wanted to let you all know that Scott Nixon is no longer serving on the board. He's resigning from the board. So we do have an opening for a regular member. If you're interested in the position, or we will also reach out to Andrew and Lauren or other alternates. But in one way or another, we have for the board. If you guys have any recommendations of anyone you want to kind of put forward, do so. We'll talk with John and Lauren and Andrew and see if they want to kind of commit to being a regular member as well.
Yeah, John. This would be a chance. You don't have to be an alternate anymore. You can be
There you go.
be a regular member.
John, you can still tell them you can't come to a meeting, so.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, or retire or volunteer.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. I don't know, this alternate status is pretty good.
You've done a really, really good job, John.
Right.
I would be delighted
Well-
if you chose to try to come on board full time. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd be honored to
Well-
serve alongside you.
Yes. And Danny's request is well taken. If you know anyone who you think, they don't have to be an attorney, but it is sometimes sort of helpful if they have, it'd be nice to have a surveyor or an architect or a building person on here, but but that's not necessary. Just regular people who can, think, oh, I know, I was going to ask Danny, Mara had reached out about a board training session, and then, things got real busy and we haven't heard. She hasn't forgotten about that, right?
She did not forget. It just, to be honest with you, I think things with Douglas still got really busy and kind of consumed her attention. So she did reach out to start put together a training, but we're gonna come back to you with it. Maybe at the beginning of the year or something.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great. If nobody else has any other business, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
So
Move we adjourn.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everyone have a great next month, and maybe we'll see you in November.
Should be a
Okay.
beautiful weekend. Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you. everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
thank you.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Yeah. All right.